All right, today we're jumping into a wild one. It's a story that kicks off with a kidnapping but ends with a question that, honestly, people are still arguing about today. It's a tale of incredible wealth, revolution, and an identity that was just completely shattered.
I mean, think about it. What happens when the heir to a famous family doesn't just get into trouble, but becomes the scandal? We're about to dive into a saga of immense power, radical politics, and an identity that wasn't just changed. It was demolished and rebuilt right in front of the world's eyes.
So let's set the scene. The year is 1974. You have to imagine America as this total pressure cooker. Social upheaval, radical ideas, everything is bubbling up. And right in the middle of all that, that's where our story explodes.
And then, bam, the news hits like a ton of bricks. A young woman, an heiress to one of the most powerful families in America, is just gone, vanished, right out of her own apartment.
So who was this woman at the center of the storm? To really get a grip on the absolute chaos that was about to unfold, you've got to understand who she was before it all went sideways.
The victim was 19-year-old Patricia Hearst, but everyone called her Patty. And that last name, Hearst, that is the absolute key to this whole thing. She wasn't just anyone. She was the granddaughter of a man who basically wrote the playbook for American media.
And to understand why Patty was a target, you really have to zoom out and look at her family. The name Hearst wasn't just about money. Oh no, it was a symbol of incredible media power and, frankly, a long, long history of public controversy. I mean, the Hearsts were the textbook definition of a media dynasty. For decades, they controlled newspapers, magazines, you name it, shaping what the entire country was thinking about.
And it all started with this larger-than-life figure, William Randolph Hearst. His entire empire was built on sensationalism and power, making him one of the most formidable people of his time. Fun fact, he was the real-life inspiration for the movie Citizen Kane.
So as you can see, controversy was kind of the family business. It was nothing new. But here's the difference. Those earlier scandals were often at arm's length. The 1974 kidnapping? This brought the conflict right to their doorstep in the most personal and terrifying way you can imagine. But this is where the story takes a hard left turn that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. The whole narrative was about to flip from a kidnapping story to something way more complex and, frankly, shocking. The group that took her was the small, pretty obscure urban guerrilla group. They called themselves the Symbionese Liberation Army, or the SLA. Their whole goal was to spark a violent revolution. And they actually got their name from the word symbiosis, this idea of uniting all oppressed people.
Just a few weeks after she was taken, this became the question on everyone's mind. Patty Hearst, the victim, just seemed to disappear. And in her place was this new, revolutionary figure. So what was going on? Was she brainwashed? Was it just a survival tactic? This case actually introduced the world to the idea of Stockholm syndrome. You know, that psychological response where hostages start to form a bond with their captors.
The transformation was just staggering. On one side, you have Patty Hearst, privileged media heiress. And on the other, you have Tanya. That was her new revolutionary name. She started releasing audio tapes denouncing her family and capitalism. And then, she was photographed holding a machine gun during a bank robbery.
So yeah, this wasn't just a kidnapping anymore, not by a long shot. Patty Hearst, now going by Tanya, was a wanted fugitive, actively taking part in the SLA's crimes. For the public watching this all unfold, the line between victim and perpetrator had become impossibly blurry.
So, how did this all shake out in the end? Well, the story didn't just fade away. The aftermath is what really cemented the Hearst case in history, leaving behind a trail of controversy and questions that still linger to this day. And in all this chaos, one thing is absolutely crucial to remember. While Patty's role became complicated, the Hearst family remained the victims. They were a family whose daughter had been violently taken from them. Period. So let's just put all the pieces together. An heiress gets kidnapped by a radical group, the SLA. Soon after, she seems to join them, taking part in their crimes under the new name Tanya. But throughout this whole ordeal, her family remained the victims. The result? One of the most complicated and debated public legacies in modern American history. And that leaves us with the final, haunting question. How should we remember Patty Hearst? As a victim of a horrific crime who just did what she had to do to survive? As a willing convert to a radical cause? Or is the truth somewhere far more complex and unsettling? That's a question the public is still debating today.